welcome to the Middle-aged Bodcast with me, Raging Rich.
And me, T.A. Shelano.
And T.A, we are back. It is still season 3.
Well, I think the thing that you've not brought up here, Rich, is we're back, but we're back in your studio because we actually haven't done a recording in the studio for quite a little while. We've been doing some of these virtual link recordings.
Remote recordings.
Recordings, that's it. So this is actually the first time in a few weeks that we've been back sat in the studio. So
well, I've been here, but yeah, for both of us, yeah, you're right. It has been a while.
Yeah. So I think that's an interesting one to pick up on, and we're sort of coming into spring.
Yes, the sun is shining.
The sun is shining. The weather is okay. We have to be careful on rights.
Be careful on broadcasting rights here. Yeah,
we could go through loads of songs about the sun.
We really could, yeah, but I don't think it's a good plan. I don't want to, as much as we joke about the podcast lawyers, I don't think they're going to get us out of a copyright lawsuit.
Well, okay, fair enough, especially with my singing, but never mind. So, where are we at with the weighing? I think that's the next thing to have a think about. And just looking back where we were at, so I, at the last count, was on 19 stone and a pound, which is 121.4 kilos. You were 19 stone 6, which is 123.6 kilos. And then there's been a couple of weigh-ins since then. So I tragically went up 3 pounds to 19 stone 4 to 122.7 kilos. Thanks to that takeaway, Mrs. Shelano, from the night before the weigh-in. Not recommended. Not a criticism, it was very nice, but obviously. And then you retained at 19 stone 6 that week, Rich. And then the latest weigh-in stats, I went back down to 19 stone 1. And you have dropped down to 19 stone 5. So I think having been a pound heavier than you at the start of the season, I'm currently 4 pounds lighter. So that is where we're at. Yeah, nothing groundbreaking in these stats for us at the moment.
No, but progress is progress. Yeah. I keep talking about the cutting down certain things and eating better. And while I've been eating better main meals, the treats, as I've called it, I have gone a bit overboard with some of that due to circumstances in work and whatnot.
Okay,
you know what I mean. But
sweet treats.
Yeah, so like sweet treats and stuff. And it's like if something bothers you, you have a bad day, I'm like, oh, I'll go and have this. So yeah, I've just been trying to cut that out again.
Yeah.
Because that blatantly, thankfully, I think that eating better meals has kept me balanced a little bit, because otherwise it would have just shot back up massively. But yeah, it's an interesting one, and I think just got to try and get back to that regime of, okay, doing the eating better in terms of not just the main meals, but also the things around it that you have. I will say, and I know we mentioned it in an episode that we've already recorded today, so I won't touch on it too much, but obviously I made a bolognese pasta bake the other day, but also used the air fryer to do some chips. I've been using the air fryer a lot more for doing like little side dishes and things like that. So that's been something that has been going on a little bit more with stuff. And I do think that's been quite helpful as well. And I need to maybe do a little bit more with the air fryer and the cooking. And as I say,
air fried by Raging Rich.
Well, yeah. And I mean, just to sort of talk about the exercise bike a little bit.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up, Rich. You know, I want to hear your assessment of your February challenge.
So obviously we know that I haven't been doing great on it. Ruth did have a go at me the other day because I did say I haven't been doing as well as I should have been, and I did start going back on. So I've been a bit more frequent with it, trying to make sure I'm going on at least sort of 5 times a week. But I found it hard to just that sort of motivation side of it, and I think realistically, that challenge was one. I know you kind of set it for me and we've been talking about things. But more of the cooking, I found that the thing that I'm really gravitating towards and doing a lot more with. And I actually think we joked about Raging Rich's recipes and whatnot, but actually maybe that's the thing to focus on, something more that I'm now finding a bit of a passion for. I'm finding the exercise side of things. I know it's important, but for me, it's not something I I do a lot of walking around and stuff like that, and I do find that's quite good for me. But the exercise bike thing, I haven't really felt like it's something I've enjoyed doing or anything like that. And I know we'd said maybe substituting it for something else, but the cooking thing, I've been really impressed with because you've known me a long time. I always hated doing it. The fact that I've gone and cooked something for myself and actually enjoyed doing it, because that's the thing I've always gone, I hate cooking for myself, I don't mind for others. To go and actually do that, just to cook it for myself and have a few portions to have, and actually got one spare that I've frozen. I think that's brilliant. I think that's sort of become the thing that, and we spoke about it sort of before we recorded, that has become my kind of, I don't want to say passion project, but you know what I mean? That kind of thing that's,
Well, I think it's noticeable that you're definitely doing more cooking and that you're definitely getting into that. I think on the exercise bike thing, it is one of those things. If you don't really enjoy what you're doing, you're not going to stick at it. And I think that is that's a key thing. So you've got to do obviously what you enjoy. But yeah, I think you've definitely started to knuckle down a bit more on the cooking side of things, which I'll be honest, from a personal perspective, I've probably been less than I would like. But I have, obviously been busy with various things, and it's not an excuse. But yeah.
But the other thing, of course, is, and I showed you this again before we started recording, I've actually started logging. As much of it started as a bit of a joke, I've started to log some ideas for Raging Rich's recipes. Because as much as we've joked around about it, maybe that's something we could do. Maybe we could genuinely do kind of a cooking for beginners. People who can't do certain things, give them a few shortcuts, a few things that can help them to build up their cooking abilities, and then kind of do it as a sort of I don't know, the cookbook for
Beginners,
but like
the cookbook for the middle-aged man that don't cook.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. And like make that kind of thing, because I mean, everyone keeps mentioning Jamie Oliver all the time, and I've already pointed out I'm not a big fan of his cookbooks, because I have got one. I know you and Mrs. Shelano bought it for me, but I've never really found
that's gratitude for you.
No, but you said it yourself about him. Like his recipes, some of them are. I know Mrs. Shelano loves them, but she's really good with the cooking.
Yeah,
we're not. Like,
I know.
You need something that's kind of more for the sort of the beginner side of things.
So almost like an idiot's guide, beginner's guide, something a bit more straightforward. And maybe that is it. You're going to become the public face of cooking for those that don't. I guess that's the way forward. I can see you found your niche.
That'll be it. Coming to ShelanoBooks.co.uk soon.
Whoa, hang on a second. I don't think that's not been through the lawyers yet.
Oh, don't start this again. And I've already referenced it in a previous episode. Every time you mention it now, I'm going back to Matt Murdock, and I'm going to keep it going until you drop this lawyer's accent.
Well, I look forward to discussing your cookbook with you, certainly. And
you're going to have your chapter.
I'm going to have a chapter in it.
Well, you joke around. You should have something. You should at least have one dish on there. I think the pilaf needs to go in there.
Okay. So Shelano's specials, Shelano's starters.
No, you need to have something. You need to have like we'll just give you like this little section to put a couple of dishes in.
Hey, I've completely thrown this out there. This is literally an idea that has just jumped in my head. So hear me out. Obviously, Dan from Casting Fuse, big friend of the show. He does episodes where he has the one with the dinner party. So who are you bringing to dinner? What are you cooking for them? Maybe that should be the thing, that we take some of, with Dan and see what he's had as like these lists, and see where that could fit into your recipe book as a podcast book special of something of sorts.
We could try and do something.
We've just
come
up with an idea.
That is that's pretty good. We could try. Although some of those dishes they mentioned on Who's Coming to Dinner, there are some really difficult things, I'm sure, for me to cook. As we pointed out, I'm very much a beginner.
Well, it's true. But also, if you want to expand the cookbook on having who's also coming to dinner, you could bring in the guests as well as who's coming to dinner.
Maybe we should have a chat with Dan about that. Yeah. But obviously, that's me with the cooking. The lack of progress on the exercise bike, but the progress on the cooking. And T.A, how is the 100-day writing challenge going?
So today, at time of recording, will be day 57. I haven't yet written today. That is going to have to be on the agenda for later.
Well, we have been recording, so
But
yeah.
but this is the thing, and that's been the interesting thing about the challenge, is dedicating that time and finding that time whenever in the day that may be. And I do look at obviously the various commitments going on, which is where the focus for it has become so helpful. But yeah, in terms of the 56 days so far, I have managed 27,830 words, and it's made such a difference in terms of the consistency in taking the project forward. So I'm, really kind of looking at how that really helps you with discipline of things. It's been fascinating. I've obviously still got 44 days to go. So I'm really keen to see where I get to by the 100-day point in terms of moving towards completing a first draft of the second book. That's kind of where I'm at. And the exciting news that's just been come out this week, of course, is that the way the second book has developed, it has become a little bit more of a sequel than I was expecting in parts. It still kind of stands alone in its own right, but definitely follows on from The Doctor's Hidden Patients. And that has led to me making the announcement, given some other reader feedback, that it will now be part of a trilogy, and that book 3 will be, I think, a prequel. So this is the Ledenstraum trilogy.
Well,
Rich.
you see, I'd read this, and I was thinking about this myself, actually, when you said this. Have you not thought of doing a sort of trilogy that is The Doctor's Hidden Patients, then obviously this follow-up book, a follow-up to that, and then a prequel trilogy, kind of like Star Wars? It's kind of like you've done episode 3, and episode 4 is your next book. You could do episode 5 as the final part of your trilogy, and then go back and do the prequels.
Well, that's an interesting idea, Rich. But I mean, in terms of trying to, at the moment, make the challenge seem reasonable, the idea of even considering going to the third book for me was a big leap. And it's just because actually a lot of people that have read The Doctor's Hidden Patients have often said we'd really like to see what went before. That's just been a recurring theme. And it weirdly, when I started on the second book, initially that was the idea I was going to go with. And I stopped quite early on and I wasn't feeling it. Decided to do something else completely different, which has weirdly, although it's a different story, then linked very heavily now back into the Doctor's Hidden Patients. So it just feels like a natural, it's a wrong order of doing things maybe, but I'm not sure about at the moment, like what you said. There can be opportunities there for that maybe, but at the moment I'm really kind of thinking I like the idea of the trilogy, and that will keep me busy for probably long enough, Rich.
Well, that's true, yeah.
Also, the prequel would probably be a bit harder to write in terms of history and some of the stuff I'd have to do around research more, around that time. If I'm going to have to go back to the 50s and the 60s and that sort of stuff, then yeah.
Well, I'm just thinking, because obviously you mentioned doing the trilogy and everything else. Thinking about the formats of the book as well. Like, we spoke about this, I think, before. Audiobooks. Is that something you're thinking we could tap into, either through shelanobooks.co.uk? I'm going to do the shameless plugging of the website for you, or through Amazon or whatever. Like, audiobooks is a really great way to reach people as well. And I think I've suggested maybe us doing a little bonus episode where maybe as a test run, we could do like a chapter as a bit of a bonus episode of the podcast. But maybe that's the thing. Maybe we should do a little bit of a...
Yeah, I think I would potentially be interested in doing that. Exactly how we do that, I think your idea of a test option first would be good, but leading towards maybe putting that out as an audio book in the first instance could be an option.
We probably need someone with a slightly more I don't know, palatable voice than ourselves to...
No, hang on a second. If you'll forgive me for a moment, okay. The Doctor's Hidden Patients, out now. See, I can do voice work.
In a world.
I mean, can you imagine how long trying to do that for a whole book? Herbert and Lyle stood out the address. You just
wouldn't do it like the movie trailer guy.
What, for all 84,000 words of that? They got out the car. What happened next? It's that kind of that kind of thing. So maybe we need to find somebody with a better voice. Is that your thought process?
I'm just thinking it might be something that you might decide to look into. And I know we've spoken about it, and there's obviously research into what type of voices work and whatnot for audiobooks, but it's certainly something that could be.
What you're saying, Rich, is that people with West Midlands accents wouldn't naturally lead towards great people for telling a story.
I'm not saying they don't have to be someone from the West Midlands. I'm just saying it might be better not being either of us.
No, but there is a point to that, because they say, like, call centres where they'd look at different accents that were deemed more trustworthy and that people preferred to hear. That things like Liverpool, Birmingham accents, etc., were seen as negative, whereas some of those sort of soft Scottish accents and things like that were seen as much more positive. So actually, there is a real angle to that. That if you're going to listen to something, if you're going to their voice that you listen to could make a big difference.
The problem is, T.A., the most palatable Scottish accent I can think of is David Tennant's, and how we're going to get him to do it is beyond me.
Well, again, the other Scottish actors are out there. No,
Karen Gillan,
David,
Peter Capaldi, they're all on Doctor Who.
Okay, well, this is good. Either that, or we tap into some other ideas. I don't know, or we go for a plain old English accent. I don't know. We could try all sorts of things, couldn't you? You could. I mean, it would probably sound quite good in a sort of an old Cockney, wouldn't it? The doctor's in patience now. You could kind of go anywhere, really.
We'll get Danny Dyer to do it.
No, whoa, hang on a second. Danny Dyer reads the Doctor's Hidden Patients. Really?
Which Danny Dyer, though?
What do you mean, which Danny Dyer? His daughter, you?
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Which one would we get?
This has gone in a direction.
This has just gone in a right random direction. Let's move on.
What else have we been up to, Rich?
Well, obviously, last week we went out for our friend's 40th birthday, and we went to a place called Clay's in Birmingham, which was very enjoyable. Which is a virtual clay pigeon shooting experience. Really enjoyed that. That was something a little bit different to do. Yeah, just they've sort of repurposed an old retail unit, you were saying.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. I think it used to be some sort of clothes type stall. But yeah, they got all these big screens. And I don't know about you, but those of us are old enough to remember Nintendo. Duck Hunt. It was a bit like Duck Hunt on the big screen, but you'd actually got, you used to have this sort of strange gun that you had for the NES, that you actually now had what looked like a proper gun, and they were heavy, weren't they?
I was reading about this, and apparently they were originally proper guns that they've taken all of the parts out of, and they've put the tech into it so that it obviously reads as you move the gun, the sort of the target on the screen, the little I can't remember what you call it, but yeah, the little reticle, as they call it, sort of thing. It was really good. I did enjoy it. Great experience, and obviously for what we'd paid for it, you get a little bit of a package. So you get some drinks and some food included in it as well, and you get sort of an hour then. To actually, by the way, we're not sponsored by Clay's, but again, if they want to sponsor us, we need the money.
Okay. I mean, that was a real shameless appeal for sponsorship.
It's just become a running joke. I was listening back to some old episodes and heard it and went, I'm just going to keep saying it.
I mean, of course, they'll be really keen on the basis we've compared it to the Nintendo. I mean, are we?
Oh no, it's one of those really interesting things, though, isn't it? Where there's like a screen and you can choose the types of games that you play on there. So it's not literally like it's just a clay pigeon, a virtual clay pigeon, going across the screen. That does happen, but there's sort of different games that you can do with it. So there's like one where you've got virtual jockeys riding a horse, and every time you hit the target, your horse moves forward in the race. There's ones where you can kind of try and knock other players out of the game and stuff like that. There's some really cool little concepts in there, and obviously we were a little bit late to being let in. They were running over with some previous players, so we were in a bit of a rush with getting the food and stuff while we were playing the game. But can't fault the food. It was fantastic, and I can't fault the actual gameplay stuff. It would be great to go back and give it another go.
Speaking of food, did you see, I noticed that Driver Dave obviously was there with us, as was Duty One, and they did look slightly put out at the size of the burgers. I think they were hoping for sort of like something more substantial. The burgers were a little bit small, but
but it's because it's the free part of the package thing. If they wanted to have something a little bit more, they'd have to go and pay for the.
Whereas Mrs. Shelano and I, we had the pizza side thing, and the fries. That was very nice, actually. Really nice.
Yeah, well, I had the sausage roll. Say sausage roll. It's not like they just give you like a quick sausage roll. It's something they made and it's like cut into sections. It's probably about I don't really even know a portion size, but it was a good sort of portion of food, and it was really enjoyable. So yeah, it was a great place to go. I know they've got a few places around the country as well. I think they've got a couple of places in London, but it was really good, and I think it's showing, like we said, that obviously I want to touch upon towns and cities a little bit at some point, but certainly with Birmingham, I do think there's a lot of really good stuff now that's there, and obviously there's Flight Club for the darts. There's a few places actually that do the darts stuff there now, and sort of the mini golf and all that kind of stuff. But it's become quite a big thing, hasn't it?
Well, speaking of darts, Rich, and as much as I'm not sure whether we'd bring this up or not, but before we got to Clay's, we were having beverages in another venue, and not for the first time. It's been suggested that I look a little bit like darts player Rob Cross, and a very drunk gentleman decided to try and start a chant on his own of "It's Rob Cross, it's Rob Cross," but none of the people with him joined in. They just looked embarrassed. And there was that. So I'm not Rob Cross. We've never been seen in the same room together. And I do acknowledge, there's a little bit of similarity. But yeah, why you would randomly just start speaking to a stranger like that in that way.
Well, he was a bit drunk, wasn't he?
Well, he was a bit drunk, but do I look like the kind of bloke to sort of start going, "It's Rob Cross, it's Rob Cross"? His friends looked a little bit like, he doesn't look like the sort of person who's going to enjoy this. Whereas, to be fair, at one point I was going to turn around and kind of try and do a darts action, and I thought, nah, it's just not going to work. But never mind.
Should try to just send him a copy of the book as Rob Cross.
As Rob Cross.
Yeah.
I should. Well, if I'm going to sell him it as Rob Cross, I've got to make him buy 180 copies of the book.
Teed that up
There
nicely.
you go. That was beautifully done. That wasn't even. We hadn't even made that up. But that's
No,
just on the
that's
hop.
just on the hop.
That's the level of talent that we've got.
Oh dear me. So what else have you been up to? Yeah.
So I went to the dentist on Monday,
Okay.
which doesn't sound like the most natural thing to talk about on a podcast, but it turned into a bit of an experience, Rich. And I don't think I've actually spoke to you about this
No.
as yet. And I don't really know how this is just what happens in life, and it's actually quite a serious thing how this played out in the end. So I decided, because the weather dried up quite nicely, I decided to walk to the dentist. It's again part of our podcast friendly things that you can do to improve your fitness and whatever. So I decided to walk, and it is a decent walk. Yeah, so I started to head that way, and weirdly, I'd seen these couple of youths on a motorcycle, moped type thing, seem to be sort of trawling the streets. And I'd seen them a couple of times on the journey. They seem to be going around in a bit of a circle, a bit odd. And it's kind of the time of day, after schools have closed and all that sort of stuff. And it's like, what are they doing? A bit weird. And anyway, part of the journey, you have to walk up through this alleyway and all the rest of it, and onto this estate is a bit of a cut through. And I'm walking up, and these they came up part of the alleyway, which blatantly is not for motorised vehicles, and it's obviously a bit dangerous if there are young people about, or people walking dogs, stuff like that. And I thought, what are they doing? Anyway, they kind of like shot up as if they were like looking for somebody. Then they kind of veered off onto the road, and they're kind of going round in a bit of a circle. And I'm kind of walking up this alleyway, and then two other youngsters come running past me up the alleyway. And I'm thinking, well, what is going on here? And again, I walk a bit further, and I can see still they're, going around in a bit of a circle on this bike. I get to the sort of top of the alleyway, and these two youngsters that had run past me, they're in a bit of a panic. And I sort of say, "Oh, are they looking for you? Are they chasing you? What's going on?" What I didn't realise is the one lad, he's already on the phone to 999. Okay, in terms of like trying to get the police out. He's like, we don't know them. We don't know what's going on. They were genuinely scared. Like, he's like, where are we? We've run off. Because we're just scared. We don't know what's going on. What's the name of this road? And I was like, okay, this is the name of the road. So I'm explaining to the operator where they are and whatnot. And the operator's like, oh, but what number? Well, we're not at a number, but okay. For example, I know this road that over there is going to be roughly this number. If you can get, your officer to there, blah, blah, blah. And I'm kind of, saying that. And these lads genuinely were absolutely terrified, right? And to be fair, it was intimidating what these dudes were doing, and they were blading up to no good. And I'm like, okay, I've got to get to the dentist. But at the same time, this is concerning because, like, if they come back, have they, me being around as well, as they kind of, the reason they've not got at me that I'm an older person, I don't know. Maybe I look more intimidating than I actually am, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. If I hang with them, I'm trying to sound like a youth. Are they less likely to get, if they come back, are they less likely to come? Or if they do, I don't know. So I stayed with them until the police come, and they literally couldn't get into this police car quick enough. I'm like scared. So I said to the officer, look, this is what's happening. And he's like, oh yeah, we're going to try and get some other cars, see if we can find this bike and whatnot. Anyway, I carried on my journey, and I walk up and I get onto the main road, and the bike comes past me. And I'm like, that's them. And then it had gone so quick, I didn't really get a chance to kind of process it. But then they came back round again, so obviously they continue this loop of whatever they're doing, and they had to stop to turn right. So I was like, the plate of the bike. So I got the plate of the bike, and I rang the police and said, look, this is what, I'm not in an emergency now, this is what this was. Your officers picked up these lads. Here's the bike plate, if it helps, and whatnot. And I was like, wow, okay, blah, blah, blah. And then I get to the dentist, and I'm just sitting there, and I'm going, what the hell just happened? Like, I left home to walk to the dentist. I've ended up in this kind of weird moment where I'm like helping these lads I don't know. They're clearly terrified. There's clearly two lads doing something really, really bad, whether they're out to beat people up, rob people, whatever. Don't know what's going on. And then I'm kind of like, suddenly then I'm in an episode of The Bill. The plate, such and such. And I'm like I'm in the middle of an action thing. And then I get to the dentist and I'm like, oh, I've still got to have a filling yet. You know what I mean? I'm explaining this to the dentist. And then in the end, I was the one that got robbed, if you've seen the charges at the dentist. I mean, dear me.
Oh, wow.
And so that all plays out. But the thing that was interesting was the young lad said to me, he said, oh, what's your name, blah, blah. And just like, first name, whatever. And then when he got in the police car, he just went, you're a legend. Right. And I'm a man in my 40s. There's no way teenagers are calling me a legend. But they were like, as if I'd really helped them out. And I was like, basically, Rich, and you're a massive superhero fan, I am Batman.
No. What you should have done when they said, what's your name? You should have just gone, I'm Rob Cross.
They wouldn't know. They wouldn't know who Rob Cross is. They know who Rob Cross is.
Oh, come on. Just let me have that one.
I'll let you have
that one.
Yeah,
come on.
I'll let you have that one. Okay. But yeah, so there we go. So that was the excitement of the dentist.
Wow, that's mad.
But we haven't spoke about that yet. I've kept that up for this.
Well, good on you, T.A., for helping those lads out, as I say, and hopefully everything with those guys is okay.
It's worrying in one respect, isn't it, about where society is it is going and getting to. And I think that was my reflection afterwards. It really was that, such an innocuous kind of thing, and how, we see some very tragic things, reported. It did make me, it definitely made me think a bit afterwards. And then that situation could have gone very differently as well. And you're just caught in a moment of something that happens. And it's strange that, that whole either right place, right time, wrong time thing is interesting. But, I'm
going to have to buy you a cowl now.
A what?
A cowl.
A cowl?
A cowl. It's what Batman wears. You said you were Batman.
I'm sorry. When you said cowl, all I was thinking of was Simon. I was like, what's he on about?
I knew that was coming.
Oh, sorry. I didn't know what that is. Is that what he wears?
It's the cape and cowl.
Well, there you go. That's it. That's for Christmas or birthdays or.
God, he's going to be dressing up like Michael Keaton.
Yeah, I'm gonna get out.
Actually, you know what? Let's just randomly, for a bit of fun. Who is your Batman? Who would you say is your quintessential Batman?
Oh, I don't know. Who's my quintessential Batman?
Yeah.
What? Who's playing?
So you know, like how a lot of people will say that their Superman is Christopher Reeve.
Yeah.
Because it's like the first one.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, with Batman, there's been a lot of actors playing him, and for me, there are two actors. One is the sort of the big version, the version that got me into it, which is Adam West, obviously. So Adam West, I will still say is one of my favourite Batman versions, even though it's not really in line with the Batman that there is now in the comics and whatnot. But I do have my Batman in terms of the movies. Who is your Batman?
Well, I don't know if I actually have a Batman. That's the weird thing. It's not a question. It's not a question. I was really given a
No one's saying Clooney, by the way, with sound mind.
Okay. I don't know. I mean, obviously, Michael Keaton was the original in the films. I didn't mind the Robert Pattinson one
Yeah,
either,
that's good.
actually.
I'm going Christian
Was
Bale as my Batman
well,
personally, but
well, obviously with the trilogy.
yeah.
Yeah. So I've not really given that a huge amount of thought. And why would you when I am Batman, as it turns out?
Gave you another chance to do it.
Gave me another chance to
Yeah.
do it. Other superheroes exist.
Oh, yes, they do. We could be here forever saying
Forever
something
saying-
like that.
Well,
mate.
there we go. Shelano man,
Oh, God.
Captain Shelano. Where else could we go with this?
Oh, God.
Oh, you look put out by this.
No, I'm just trying to think how where we're going with it.
The Doctor's hidden superhero,
Oh, my God.
from author to crime fighter.
You know what would actually be really interesting once you've got this trilogy done?
Yeah,
For you to write a superhero book, because that would be so interesting. It'd have to be in the realms of like a Batman or a Kick-Ass,
Yeah.
like those characters that you like.
yeah. I've got. Well, obviously, we'd be me and Raging Rich. Obviously, would also have to be involved in that, wouldn't he? Be one of the characters, surely. No.
See, I could make a reference to Robin, but there's been hundreds of Robins, and you just go, "Oh God, he's off again." So let's not.
No, I didn't mean as in a Batman and Robin thing, but I was thinking more in the Kick-Ass theme. There was loads of different characters, so like you'd bring in different.
Oh yeah, in the second film, yeah.
Good Raging Rich comes in and switches off their IT.
I'll be IT man.
IT man,
And that's just like anyone who works in an organisation that fixes PCs. But yeah, we've gone on a bit of a tangent here.
Well, all new ideas.
But one of the things I did just want to mention before we wrap this episode up that's been quite interesting. A few weeks ago, we did an episode on physical media versus digital content. And I spoke a lot about sort of you never really own your digital content. The streaming services that will remove items. You've got obviously the sort of thing with physical media. It's yours. It's yours. It's in your possession. You can watch it when you want. With the streaming, they can take shows off the air. They can move from different platforms to one another and whatnot. Something that has been picked up on the Gadget Show podcast recently. In fact, this past week, time of recording. I used to be a massive fan of the Gadget Show. And actually, the presenters who do the podcast, it's Jason Bradbury and Susie Perry. And that is the era of the Gadget Show TV show that was my favourite. So getting to listen to those two talking about, so Jason and Susie are talking about the physical media, they're talking about digital media, and they made a lot of points we'd made. But there was something that was brought up that I did find quite interesting, actually, in theirs. And I wanted to get your take on it, actually, T.A, because it was interesting about books. So Amazon have prevented, I didn't even know you could do this, but Amazon have now put an update out so you cannot plug your Kindle into a computer and back up your books to the computer where you can then convert them to another format. So, for example, The Doctor's Hidden Patients.
Mm-hmm.
If it was purchased from Amazon, I couldn't plug it into my computer, my Kindle into my computer, send that file and then turn it into a version that I could use, sort of with other formats. However, of course, on your website, shelanobooks.co.uk, shameless plug yet again, if you buy the digital copy from there, obviously you can then go, oh, you can put it on your Kindle, you can put it on your phone, you can put it on other ebook readers and whatnot. And I found that really interesting, but actually it sort of builds the idea to me with Amazon, and I'm not going in on Amazon. This is something that's with a lot of these companies actually, but because Apple have done some changes as well. So I have an old iPhone. It's like really old. It's iPhone 4S from years ago, and I use it purely now for music. Obviously, I don't use it as my phone. I haven't for many years, but I use it for my music, and I have a CD player with a dock for the iPhone. Apple have stopped you being able to put your music onto an old iPhone via iTunes. Now, because the 4S is so old, doesn't accept the newer Apple Music app. So I actually can't update it with music. And I had to plug in an old machine that I had that still had iTunes on that hadn't been updated to try and do it. And I was like, oh, this is getting ridiculous. But it's just showing how actually digital products aren't that convenient anymore. Things are changing, and it is becoming more and more of a the companies that do all that are kind of taking control of things. And it got me thinking, with all these physical copies and things, actually it is again much more of a reason to own some of that content. But I just found it quite interesting and wanted to get your take sort of with the thing of, like, can you imagine if Amazon, with me, I bought a lot of music from them digitally. If they just went, oh no, you can't download that anymore and put it on your various devices. No, what you've got to do is you can only download it to Amazon devices. Like, what's your sort of take with that?
It is interesting. I mean, we obviously talked about it quite a bit in that episode, but that whole control over things is interesting, and future access to stuff. It's becoming much more challenging environment, certainly. But in another ironic way, I have to say that during our episode, I know, and I'm sure this was entertaining when you did it, but I made reference joking to the fact I needed to make DVDs of the podcast so you couldn't delete me, and then you cut that out. So having railed against censorship, you then edited
no. Because in my defense, I have to say, and this is because of the studio location, there was an audio glitch, genuinely. And I was gutted because you said it and I wanted to keep it in, and I genuinely had to take it out because of an audio glitch.
How convenient.
No, I know. It's ridiculous. But it genuinely was for that. It's such a shame because it was quite a funny line.
I mean, I suppose the only other side of things is anything, I suppose, that prevents copyright, though, from our point of view. There is that angle, which is another side to things. And but it is definitely that whole different thing between having a physical item versus what is, the digital now, and the realms of all of that.
Well, it's starting to change so much as well. They're trying to cut down on production of like Blu-ray players and things like that. We are going to end up at a point where there is literally just digital media everywhere, and it's a shame. I think it's a massive shame, and we're sort of getting there a little bit. I've said this in the episode we did with like the Marvel content. All the TV shows that they've done in recent years are only available on Disney Plus. You can't buy them physically and stuff like that. And the WWE cutting out all their physical media now, so you can own 39 WrestleManias on DVD, but not WrestleMania 40 and stuff like that. So yeah, it's an interesting one, and I think maybe at some point we could probably have a bit of a follow-up on some of this, because I think it's an ever-evolving concept and subject to talk about.
Indeed. Well, there we go.
So yeah, we've probably gone a bit.
No, I'm now off to look for that light in the sky to see if anybody needs me.
The Shelano signal.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh my God. Yeah, if you see a giant light in the sky with a ball logo on it.
Oh, dear.
It's not a Chicago-based basketball team coming over here. No. It's T.A. Shelano.
It is your favourite author and podcaster.
Dressed up like Batman.
I've even got an outfit from a few years ago. It was Zorro, wasn't it, that we had for that party?
Yeah.
I could go out in that kind of thing.
Oh, my God.
The Adventures of Shelano.
There you go. That's an Elseworlds podcast that we could put out there. Shelano Adventures.
I like the idea of writing myself as if it's a superhero.
Oh no, this is terrible. Well, on that note,
because it'd be the only way of creating something in the superhero universe that you would ultimately reject.
I don't know about that. Some of the films that have been out recently, but yeah. But thank you very much, podcasters, for listening. We will try and do a little follow-up, I think, on this physical media, digital media stuff, because I think it's an ever-evolving thing and actually something I'm quite passionate about. We'll talk a bit more about the cooking, the writing challenge as well, T.A.
I will be carrying on with that, certainly, and continuing that progress, yeah.
So thank you very much, everybody, and we will catch you next week. Goodbye.
Two best mates here to take you to stand. Raging Rich and T.A. got your health in the hands. Williams, laughs, and tales they tell. For beats and nights, the workouts, they're keeping it real. Oh, it's the middle-aged